Hail and well met, everybody. 'Tis I, Bard, pronouns they, them, and she, her, welcoming you once again to the Mad Realm. And in today's Art of the Hobby video, I'm going to be introducing you to art theory, and more specifically, color theory. Now, this is going to be quite a long series in the art and the hobby, mostly because there's a lot to go over when it comes to color theory. And given the fact that I have studied this and am getting a degree in it, I'm going to take everything that quote-unquote traditional and professional artists utilize about color theory and some stuff that you won't learn in typical settings and dilute it down for you, the miniature artist. So, without further ado, let's take it to the desk. Now, one of the things that is oftentimes talked about in color theory videos as it relates to miniature painting, but isn't gone into proper detail with, I feel, is just what color theory is. Because oftentimes, people say that color theory is just one of its components, which is how colors interact with one another. Now, like I said, that's just one component of it. There is the artistic side and the anthropological side. The anthropological side is what most people have studied throughout time. This is the long-term color theory, and that is how cultures view colors and the ways that they interact. Color theory is also made up of where you get pigments from, how paints are made, mediums, all that different stuff, and how it affects one another. You know, red to one person might be completely different to another, especially if they're from a different culture. And depending on how warm or cool or just anything that red is, it carries a different weight. And that is what color theory is in the end. It is how we interpret colors, how we respond to colors. And once you get a harness on how people respond to those colors, that is when you move into the broader context of color theory, which is how you create things and implement them onto your miniatures to evoke an emotion. Because when you're using color theory in everything, whether you're realizing it or not, you're trying to evoke an emotion. Now, you might be asking, Bard, why should I care about evoking an emotion with my color theory? Well, my friend, that is because color theory, as I have stated, is all based around emotions. It is how we as a culture and as individuals look at color, its placement, its temperature, its chroma, all of which are terms I'll get into later, all play into one another. And for us as miniature painters, with our subjects already chosen and a lore already made up for them, with different aesthetics already chosen, have the opportunity to utilize those emotions, that deep instinctual response, to our benefit. For example, something like the Ultramarines, who have a fairly bright blue, but not too bright to appear playful or arcane and whimsical, have that sense of sturdiness of mind. The Ultramarines are, of course, known for their, taxes, their logistics. They are the quote-unquote best Space Marines because they can do anything. And their cobalt hue, they're not actually Ultramarine, is evocative of that. It's a cool blue, but not too dark of a blue to reminisce about something like the Night Lords, the brutal guys who are going to skin you alive. And they both, sort of as a concept, utilize the color of red. as a secondary. For the Space Marines of the Ultramarines, that red is meant to evoke status. Yes, it has a background in blood, but it is of such a warmth that when it's compared to the cool blues, doesn't really seem to be all too violent. It makes us think about spring. It makes us think about action, readiness, rather than the dark reds of the Night Lords, whose bat-like helms and whose, Dracula aesthetics invoke violence and gore. It is that stuff that you, as a miniature artist, are looking to hone in on. Color theory, when you think about it in that emotional term, doesn't seem so daunting. It is how you and how your audience reacts to the colors that are placed onto a miniature and how they respond to one another. That is what color theory is. Now, something to note though, is that in this video, and all videos going on, I'm referring to our more modern color theory, which formed in about the 18th century. And the reason why is actually not because of the humanities, but because of STEM, of science. In one of the many books that I have about color, the artist Taschen, I think it's Taschen, let's go with that, in the Book of Color Concepts, notes that there is a new new elucidations. That's how you spell that word. I never knew that. Cool. And the rise of color theory, happening from 1704 to 1864. Yeah. So around about 160 years? And the reason why this time period is noted is because science is beginning to take a sort of practical look at how light and color works. For as you might know, color is just the ways in which we see the rays of light bouncing into our eyes and through our cones and rods from all sorts of reflections. That is why if you have a crystal and you hold it up to the light, you can see different colors because it's refracting in a different way. Prior to this, color theory was based all around nature, what you could find in terms of pigments. The ancient Greeks had ochre, red, ultramarine, and some other stuff, but nothing to the extent that we think of now. They had a similar color theory concept to us, but in many ways it was different. And this applies to the world over, to every culture throughout time. Availability of pigments and how we see them, the availability mixed with who can own it, how it's used, where and when it's used, is very notable. But when it comes to sort of advanced color theory, modern color theory, it's in the early modern period, or hell, you could even call it middle modern period, so the 18th century to the 19th century, where you get this new formulation. Because not only that, but we also see the Industrial Revolution and chemists beginning to form colors that are synthesized, that you can't find anywhere else in nature, and are only found through the mixtures and byproducts of chemicals and industrial actions. And that is where things start to get fun. Suddenly, colors such as ultramarine, which is ground up lapis lazuli that was harvested in Afghanistan, no longer was restricted to painting the robes of the Virgin Mary or especially holy figures due to the fact that it was so expensive to procure. Now, synthetic ultramarine blue could be available to anyone. This is one of the great strides where humanity takes its two fields of knowledge, the humanities and STEM, and molds it into one, to the point where we get something beautiful, the synthesis of knowledge and action to create something that's beneficial to all. Because let's face it, though all of us might think we would have some artistic avenue to work with in ages prior, art was expensive. If you weren't rich, you were doing quote-unquote folk art, as it would be classified now. It wouldn't be grand pieces, it would be small stuff. And much larger projects, well, you needed training, you need to be an apprentice, and if you weren't, in the know with artists, well, that costs you a lot of money. Hell, even if you didn't know artists, it costs you a lot of money, which people really didn't have. So, yeah, we can sort of thank the Industrial Revolution and all of its horrors for a open art practice, which is a hell of a thought to think about. But, that's a topic for another day. So, our modern concept of color theory and of art comes from that very modern, industrial, scientific analysis, coupled with, once again, that primal emotional response based in nature. And it is this that I, being someone who's grown up in the European American sphere, has a specific color interpretation that I will be going into, because it is the thing that dominates miniature painting. If you're watching this, you probably speak English, and if you probably speak English, well, you're probably influenced by European culture and American culture. And it's like, oh, this is how you see colors, whether you want to or not. So that's what I'm going off of. I'm going off of a European American scientific modern concept of art theory. But like I said, it's nothing to really be afraid about. It's just what colors you think look good and how you emotionally respond to them. And that's it. So, in short form, art theory and color theory is what colors look like and how you emotionally feel about them. And, yeah, there's some other stuff I'll get into, but that's for future videos. So, yeah. Well, that's it. Thank you all for watching. I hope you have a glorious time. Thank you all for the patience. I was trying to get out these videos fairly quickly, but stuff happened. And, well, I'm here now. So, join me for the ride. Have a glorious day, and may chaos reign. Bye-bye!